Can someone say 28-3? Because the Falcons have blown yet another lead, surpassing them in subs yesterday, T-Money.
Hey, you see it. We passed them. It's about damn time. Saints own the Falcons. We all know it. Let's ride, baby. Let's beat them to 7K. Let's beat them to 10K. Let's just, Who Dat Nation, sound off, subscribe. We're the number one channel in the NFC South.
Sub right now. Who Dat Nation, what's going on? Will Scott here with you on Saints Now. Appreciate you joining me and Trace Gerard on this Wednesday, where we are going to get into the latest Saints news and rumors, which of course involve the legend himself, Drew Brees. Now, Brees in headlines after a couple tweets the other day expressed interest in maybe playing again in the NFL after a report that he would not return to NBC. Obviously, he spent last season retired as a analyst for NBC Sports. Now, Brees did look his age, though, in the 2020 season. We saw him. He still played good. He was still productive, but he definitely was aging, and we could certainly tell that. Brees now 43 years old. So let's go back to these tweets. Despite speculation from media about my future this fall, I'm currently undecided. I may work for NBC. I may play football again. I may focus on business and philanthropy. I may train for the pickleball tour. I can definitely see Brees being a good pickleball player. Senior golf tour, coach my kids, or all the above. I'll let you know. Here's what he tweeted right before. Man, signing Jarvis, Juice Landry, and Tyrann Mathieu wants me to come back and play again. Great additions, leaders, and players. Drew Brees coming back. Here's what he did in his last 4 seasons with the Saints. We saw the numbers dip a little bit in 2020. He was still a good player, though. Went 9-3 as a starter in 2020. Here are his 2020 stats. Nearly 3,000 passing yards. Now, he did miss some time because of a couple different injuries. He had the punctured lung. He had the fractured ribs. It was hard to keep track of some of the stuff Drew Brees was dealing with in 2020. And then, of course, the Saints lost in the divisional round in 2020. Brees shortly thereafter announcing his retirement. So let me ask, will Drew Brees make a comeback? Type Y for yes or type in for no down in the comment section. It's the pinned comment on today's video. So when an ad break comes, go down. Let us know what you think. Is Drew Brees coming back to New Orleans? Here are other teams mentioned in the Drew Brees rumors. The Panthers and the Seahawks. And look, if Drew Brees comes back, he's either going to play for the New Orleans Saints or he's going to go play for a contender. Let's say a high-profile quarterback like Tom Brady or Joe Burrow goes down mid-season. Maybe a team that's in a playoff race would sign Drew Brees. He's not going to go play for a crappy team like the Panthers or the Seahawks. You really think that 43-year-old Drew Brees is going to come out of retirement to play for a team like that? No shot. And look, Drew Brees is a legend, but I think it's time to enjoy retirement. I feel like the Saints feel pretty good about where they're at with Jameis Winston. Some of the teams that need a quarterback right now, like the Panthers, the Seahawks, and maybe even the Houston Texans, are bad teams. And we don't want, as Saints fans, for Drew Brees to go and play for a bad team. Isn't that right, Trace?
Yeah, and see, my big thing is I feel like this all kind of happened at a weird timing. The NBC news pops up, and then Drew Brees starts tweeting, what was that, Monday night or the other night, and it just feels weird. It feels like the timing of this kind of seems like he's trying to control the story in a sense, and I don't know.
It's like when you get fired, but you quit.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not saying that, he was a great analyst. I don't think he was a bad one, but he wasn't the best one I've ever seen.
He's better at football.
Yeah, 100%. And, let's just be honest. I'm a diehard Saints fan. I've been a Saints fan for over 15-plus years. You're Louisiana ties. We got to understand the facts that Drew Brees is 43 years old. He just recently had another shoulder surgery. Excuse me.
Left shoulder, yeah.
Yeah, it's just, how are you going to come back and play at a very effective level and a very high pedigree when you are old, a year removed, and just coming off of surgery, And, like, we have Jameis Winston who can air it out. We have the deep threats around him where Chris Olave can really stretch the field. Michael Thomas, he can be your safety valve, and he can be your backup guy that you can throw it to on the flats, the slants, or on the shorter routes. He's an aggressive go-getter at the ball. And Jarvis Landry, he refuses to get tackled. So just the yards after a catchability with him, it just, this entire offense and this entire offseason is built around Jameis Winston. I think personally it would be a mistake to bring Drew Brees back. I mean, he's a legend, like you said.
Well, you can look at the left shoulder surgery two ways, right? Number one, he's going to be nowhere close to football shape anytime soon. Or you could look at it, he's trying to keep his body in football shape by getting the surgery. You could look at it one of two ways. So we'll ask this question. Could Drew Brees still start in the NFL? We're not talking about just the Saints. Could he go and start for the Seattle Seahawks, the Carolina Panthers? Type 1 for yes or type in for no. He's definitely better than Sam Darnold and Drew Lock. So I'm going to type my 1 for yes.
Yeah, I personally would also type my Y for yes. I think that it's like maybe if he's taking like Sam Darnold's job, like you said. I don't think there's very many teams out there that will, really
express
do better. Exactly.
Right.
I think they have better quarterback options for what they have.
Right. We're going to continue on here talking about Drew Brees, and before we do, you can get your jerseys, your Tyrann Mathieu jerseys, at chatsports.com/honeybadger. Honey Badger don't care. Go get it. Pre-order it. You're not going to get the number 00 unless that's the number. So once we officially know the number, once we officially have that, that's the number you're going to be getting at your doorstep. So chatsports.com/honeybadger. Go get your Tyrann Mathieu jersey right now. Drew Brees would not be the guy that you want to start week one, right? Jameis Winston needs to be that guy. However, Drew Brees would be a great safety valve. Jameis Winston has injury concerns. He's coming off of that terrible knee injury last season where he missed the entire second half of the season. He's expected to be fully healthy, though, for week one. But let's say Jameis goes down again, God forbid. The Saints are 5-2, 6-2 in a playoff race. That's when you give Drew Brees a call, get him to come back. He would be a great safety valve for this team or even other teams in the NFL if their quarterback goes down. I do wonder, though, about the commitment to Jameis Winston, right? Because keep in mind, the Saints were in heavy pursuit of Deshaun Watson. In fact, for a while, up until he signed with the Cleveland Browns, the Saints appeared to be the favorites to sign Deshaun Watson. The Saints were willing to give up 3 first-round picks to get Deshaun Watson. If they felt good about Jameis, would they have been willing to go that all in for Deshaun Watson? I don't know. However, they did give Jameis a 2-year, $28 million contract with $21 million guaranteed. But did Jameis have a better option than that? Or the Saints didn't really have another option either. Drew Brees was not himself in 2020, as I said earlier, but he was still a good quarterback. He went 9-3, led the Saints to the playoffs. I think the Saints were a better football team with him on the field. So, look, when you're looking at this, yes, Drew Brees is a legend. Yes, he's old. He hasn't been in the league in 2 years at this point. But I just think about this. If Drew Brees can somehow come back, whether it's week 1 or week 10 if Jameis gets hurt, and he leads the Saints to the Super Bowl, they're going to make a movie about it. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. It would be great. Unrealistic. It would be great. But keep in mind, when you're talking about a Drew Brees return, he was still a decent quarterback in 2020. Let's get into our next story now. Jarvis Landry, newest member of the New Orleans Saints, coming home to Louisiana to play for the Saints. Is he recruiting Odell Beckham Jr.? Here's what CBS said. Tyrann Mathieu, LSU star, returning home to play for the Saints. Jarvis Landry, returning home to play for the Saints. His LSU teammate, Odell Beckham Jr., still out there in free agency. This was Jarvis Landry's reply. A little Drake clapping emoji gif. Whoo, can you imagine? Jarvis Landry appears to want his old pal, Odell Beckham Jr., as a teammate again with the Saints. Here's what Odell Beckham Jr. said yesterday. They're going to play naked practice. That's awesome. Just like back in the day 7. Huh, Juice? Come on. Look, The Saints don't need OBJ, but the LSU Holy Trinity, can you imagine getting Tyrann Mathieu, Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham Jr., all played at LSU? It would be unbelievable. And, we've been saying it. The Saints don't really like LSU players. It feels like they don't draft LSU players. They don't sign LSU players. That has changed this offseason. So do you want OBJ in New Orleans? If yes, type OBJ down in the chat. If not, type NOBJ down in the comments section. Go down and let me know what you think. So OBJ has been linked to the Saints by Sports Illustrated. And obviously the reason he's been linked is because of all the recent moves the Saints have made, bringing his buddies Tyrann Mathieu and Jarvis Landry to New Orleans. He played LSU, obviously very close with Jarvis Landry. They also played together on the Cleveland Browns. But the question is, when we're talking about this, do the Saints really need another wide receiver? Odell Beckham was fantastic with the Rams last season before tearing his ACL in the Super Bowl. 7 touchdowns in 12 games. The Rams do not win a Super Bowl without OBJ. I mean, he was huge for them down the stretch, especially after the Robert Woods injury. Here are other teams linked to Odell Beckham Jr. You got the Rams. A return to the Rams is still very possible. The Patriots, they desperately need wide receivers for their young quarterback, Mac Jones. Dallas Cowboys haven't done anything this offseason. Perhaps they might be interested in Odell Beckham Jr. after Amari Cooper, they traded him to the Browns. So the Saints don't need OBJ, right? They're set at wide receiver. They have Juice Landry. They have Chris Olave. They have Michael Thomas. Those three, I mean, good luck finding a better receiver room than the Saints have right now, at least in the NFC. We can talk about AFC teams that might be better. Saints arguably have the top receiver core in the NFC right now. So here's what I would say. Sign him during the season if needed. Odell Beckham, because of the injury, who knows? He might get to the start of the season still unsigned. If one of your wide receivers goes down, maybe at that point you bring Odell Beckham Jr. in. Go ahead and give the Saints wide receiver room a grade. Type A, B, C, D, or F down in the chat. Without OBJ, it's an A. With them, I'm going to have to give it an A+. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. This has been Will Scott and Trace Gerard. Talk to you again soon.